Shinedown, one of my all-time favorite bands. You guys know this. And tonight we welcome their frontman, Brent Smith, to Loudwire Nights. Welcome to the show, Brent. And please do tell your grandmother that little video that she was in with you had me smiling for like 3 hours straight.
I will most definitely tell my granny that you said that. Thought people would enjoy that. She's a huge part of my life. She really gave me my work ethic when I was growing up. She still gives me the business every single day. So she always keeps me in check.
So cute. You're like, say hello. She's like, hello. Is that okay? You're like, yes. It was adorable. Love it.
The best.
The best. All right, let's get down to business. Shinedown going to be at Rocklahoma next. Then they're going to be hitting the road with Bad Flower, a young band I'm also a fan of, and a few others starting June 21st. Then back out with Papa Roach and Asking Alexandria supporting in the fall. What do you think is the most interesting part of touring that nobody ever asks you about?
Wow, that's an interesting question that I've never been asked.
There you go.
I think maybe that the artists that survive the industry are the ones that understand that your schedule has to evolve. And what I mean by that is it's really, I mean, when I was younger, I don't want to, sound like a cliche, but like, yeah, we would party and there was, drinking involved and, I had issues with substance abuse and things like that. So there was this chaos and this manicness of the industry, like when we were in our 20s and what have you. But there had to be a moment for me personally where I was like, if you really want to take this to the next level, you yourself have to go to the next level. And with that, you have to become responsible and you have to really, really look at what you're trying to express to the world. So in answer to the question, the schedule, like you have to be regimented, like the way that we are as a band. One of the things that we do that's very, very specific is we ride the same bus still. We don't necessarily have to do that, but we want to because we appreciate each other and we love and respect each other. We try to never go to bed angry. We have to talk to each other and we express how we feel. It's one of the reasons why we have the longevity that we have between myself, Eric, Zach, and Barry. And we're also very scheduled. Fitness is a big part of what we do. Taking care of ourselves is essential. Having the road schedule that we take on each year, you got to be in shape mentally and physically for it. So I think people would be surprised of how regimented it is on the road. It's almost military-esque in a way.
Is it accurate that Attention, which is the band's 6th studio album, the latest, was your first sober record?
It is. It's 1,000% correct. I cleaned up in 2011, leading into the Amaryllis record and that album cycle. The schedule was, from the touring side of Amaryllis, was 2012 to the beginning of 2014. So about 19 months. When I got clean and I lost about 70 pounds. I kind of learned how to eat right. I learned how to exercise because I was just in terrible shape when I got off the Sound of Madness album cycle, because that album cycle was 37 months. And I just remember looking at myself in the mirror just kind of going, this is not going to work. I was like, I'm 5'8". I weighed 222 pounds in 2010.
Damn.
And so I lost the weight. I got on the road and I just became a machine. And so did everybody else in the band. We were so regimented and, once again, talking about that schedule and talking about being, I'm never the guy that's been the middle of the road. I'm all or nothing, no matter what. We had all this positivity and we were just on fire. And, those 19 months of that album cycle for Amaryllis was just spectacular. And then in the beginning of 2014, when it was time to go write another record, it all stopped. And I didn't know what to do with myself. And, just being domesticated and not being on the road, I was like, I don't even know how to function. I fell off the wagon, I fell. And so during the process of writing Threat to Survival, I never walked into a studio and cut my vocals inebriated, but the downtime in between tracking and writing and things like that, I had started drinking again. The really, really tough thing about it is that I had gotten a prescription to benzos, and these things are just massively deadly. And thank God I was able to get through the album process of Threat to Survival, a lot of people wonder, like, where did the name Threat to Survival come from? Well, for me, it was what I was doing to myself was a threat to survival, my survival. In 2016, I had just, March 1st of 2016 was the very, very first day that I was clean on the album cycle with Threat to Survival. So I've been clean since then. But it was difficult because the process of 2015 to 2016, when we were on the road with Threat to Survival, that entire record cycle, the touring base of that was my withdrawal. I mean, I had really put myself in a bad way. And I don't want to go too far into detail about, why benzo and diazepam and, alloprozapam and things like that. Those are meant to be taken for a short period of time. Those types of prescriptions and those types of medication are for people that have anxiety disorders. They're not supposed to be taken for long periods of time. So what happens is, because they have such a short shelf life, the release of the medication, it completely rewires your head. And it was a nightmare. That whole touring cycle for Threat to Survival for me was my withdrawal. And it was brutal. And thank God I had 3 people with me that they never judged me. They had to pick me up and put me out on stage and be there for me during that process. So when it came time to do the beginning stages of what became Attention in 2017, I was completely sober. And it technically, it was the first album that I wrote top to bottom, and I did not take any kind of medication. I did not take any kind of drugs. I didn't drink. I barely drank coffee. I basically just, tried to eat nothing but protein and vegetables and drank a ton of water, was always very, very meticulous with my workouts, and my headspace started to clear up. And because I was always afraid that I couldn't write a record clean.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you got to be messed up to write messed up stuff. You know what I mean? And I didn't need it. A friend of mine once told me something that it meant a lot to me. And this individual told me, in regards to my substance abuse, they were like, listen, man, you are way more dangerous when you're sober. Like, the guy that is intoxicated and the guy that thinks he's having a good time and being around people that want him around, we can't stand that dude because that guy's a monster. And we don't want to see him. We want to be around you. And I'll never forget that, like, being told that. It really did light me up and really, created a light bulb that went off in my mind, just being told by somebody that I really admired, that they said, dude, you are way more dangerous when you are clear-headed and sober. Probably why Attention has the fury and the fire that it has.
I was going to say, like, Attention recently turned 1, and you guys said you consider it your most significant record, the most significant record of your career. And like you said, clear-headed, more dangerous. Why do you consider it the most significant record of your career, though?
Because it was unapologetically honest. Instead of being embarrassed about the cuts and the scrapes and the bruises and, the scars, if you will, mentally and physically, we kind of presented ourselves naked to the world, and we decided to make a record that was very much about the 4 of us, but also just to express who we are as individuals, and, that we're not perfect, that we struggle. There are times that we don't understand why the universe is sending us in the direction that it is, but there's a reason for it. There's a rhyme and a reason for it, and then not be desensitized to the dynamic of being a human being. One of the main songs, why the record was so significant for the honesty, was the song Get Up. And a lot of why that was so important is Get Up was the song that got us to the rest of the material. Once we wrote Get Up, that's when Brilliant came, and then that's when Black Soul came, and then that's when Kill Your Conscience came, when Special came, when Pyro came, Dark Side, the title track, Attention, Attention, because I wrote that song about one of my closest friends in the world and, someone that I consider a brother, which is Eric Bass. And Eric, of course, is the bass player in the band, but God, man, it's crazy to talk about it even now. Like, Eric is so much more than just a bass player. Like, this guy is so talented and so just, you talk about an extraordinary mind in regards to music and melody and putting things together, because Eric, some people may not know this, he's the producer of Attention, Attention. He also engineered the record, and he mixed the album as well. But when we started the writing process in his studio in Charleston, South Carolina, he had this piano part that he had been playing for a couple of days, and finally I said, let's work on this. And we worked on it for about 2.5 hours in the studio. I asked him to make me a quick MP3 of it, a quick demo of it, so I could kind of work on lyrics. And I'm usually quick with lyrics, usually two days tops, maybe 48 hours, sometimes quicker. But I left the studio that night and didn't come back to the studio for 11 days. And one of the reasons why is because I was terrified that I had crossed the line, because I wrote this song about Eric, and Eric deals with something called clinical depression. And he's had it from the moment we met him. And to watch him navigate that, and to watch him at times be in he will struggle with his own mind. And this is not something where it's like a case of the Mondays either. This is something that he deals with on a daily basis. And I remember when I came back to the studio finally and we cut the song, I asked him, I said, how long do you need before you do a mix? He was like, come back tomorrow around, 3 o'clock. So the following day, after we cut the vocals and everything, I was planning on coming around 3, and he called me at noon and said, I've got it. Come in the studio and check it out. So I went in, and he played it one time, and then I listened to it, and I turned around and looked at him. I said, I need you to play it one more time. And he played it again. And then I turned around and I looked at him. I said, you know what this is about, right? And he said, yeah, it's about me. And I thought that I had overstepped a line with our friendship, and it was the furthest thing from the truth, because he came to me and he said, listen, I love it. It's exactly what it needs to be. But if we're going to go this far and we're going to do this deep of a dive into our reality, then we need to go all the way. And it's one of the most personal records, if not the most personal record, from a lyrical standpoint, that I've ever written. And from a musical standpoint, what Eric was able to do. Because when you tell a record label, and ours is Atlantic Records, that we've been on for over 20 years, we're going to self-produce the next album. Sometimes people will have a tendency when the band wants to produce their own album, people will go, oh my God, they're going to build a spaceship, or they're going to, it's going to turn into a prog rock band or something. They're like, oh my God, what are they going to do? And that wasn't the case with Atlantic. They allowed us to be us, and they trusted us, and they knew that we were going to deliver. And I feel like we did. But the definition of Attention, Attention is literally an album about not being afraid of your failures. Like, don't be afraid to fail. You're going to need those moments in your life to know what to do next time, because you're not going to be defined by failures. You will not, I promise you will not be defined by your failures. You will be defined by the fact that you refuse to give up.
Yeah, that's such a powerful message. I love that about the record. Although I believe the new single that we're playing often on the show, which is Monsters, is more to do with like addiction, right? So from line 1, it caught my attention. Much darker. Yeah, much darker. Good for you. You fooled everyone. Such an addict mentality. Like, forget the fact you're killing yourself because other people are buying it. So that makes it okay. Like, that's my interpretation. But tell us what inspired the song.
Well, the song itself is part of a bigger picture, because another thing about Attention, Attention is it's not a concept record in the traditional sense. When I think of concept records, I think of like Pink Floyd's The Wall, or even Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche, or, even Tommy by The Who. But because those are concept records, they have specific places that have titles, and they have like specific characters that have names and things like that. Attention, Attention isn't a concept record as much as it is a story album. And the reason being is because at the beginning of the album, from the audio, you hear the knock at the door, you hear the footsteps of someone, walking into this room, and then you hear the chair get pulled up. That's the entrance. And the person sits down, you can hear the creaking in the chair. They take a deep breath and they exhale, and then Devil starts. So the dynamic of this is we wanted to put the listener into this room because everything takes place inside of a room. Mm-hmm. So whether you're a male or a female, whether you're young, whether you're middle-aged, whether you're older, your ethnicity, your background, your religion, all those things are not factors. Like, the beautiful thing about the rock and roll community is that, everyone and anyone is welcome. So we wanted to put the listener inside of this room and to take this journey and find themselves inside of the album as well. So as you get into the record and you arrive at Monsters, this is the individual basically at this point in the story, they're having to confront the fact, how people will sometimes use the lingo and the statement of, everybody has demons.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody has those, from a psychological standpoint, like, skeletons in the closet, all those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And I remember when we were putting the track together, I was like, everybody uses, like, I know what people are going to consume this with, if we say, because originally it was like, well, let's use the word demons, my demons are real. And I was like, doesn't sound right, and all of a sudden I started to kind of figure out the pre-chorus. I wrote the pre-chorus lyrics first, and they change too in the bridge. But where I say, leave your weapon on the table, wrapped in burlap, barely able. Don't get angry, don't discourage. Take a shot of liquid courage. Mm-hmm. And that's the first pre. And then I wrote the second pre next, which was, leave your weapon on the table, wrapped in burlap, barely able. Call a doctor, say a prayer, choose a God you think is fair. And once I had figured that out, I knew that it was this song for me personally. Because I was writing it from my point of view. It is about my substance abuse. It is about, the fact that I will always be an addict. I always tell people that I didn't drink today. I didn't do drugs today. I have no idea what I'll do tomorrow. Mm. And that's how I have to live my life. I do it one day at a time. But I needed a word that would really command the fear of that. You know what I mean? And that's when I said monsters, because in my head, they're not really demons, because demons are just that. They're demons. A monster can take different forms. A monster can change and be a chameleon. And that's why it was so much more of a poignant word and description, because I needed maximum impact with this particular song inside of the story, because this individual is coming to the realization that I'm never going to get rid of these monsters. They're always going to be a part of me. And the fact is that I can't allow them to win, and I don't have to like them, but I have to respect them, because if I don't, they will kill me. You know what I mean? Because it's like, my monsters are real and they are trained how to kill. And what that means is, like, if I backslide, if I allow things around me are, not so easy, or that I'm dealing with a very, very personal situation, or I'm having to, it always goes back to me personally. The substance abuse is a big part of who I am and what I cannot allow myself to go back to. But inside of the story, everyone's monsters, they're different for each people. You know what I mean? Some people their monster might be a gambling addiction. It might be infidelity. It might be an issue with lying. It might be, that you're a bully. You know what I mean? And there's something about being a bully that kind of, it makes you feel good. I know that sounds like a sick thing, but when someone's trying to dissect themselves and go, it's a frightening moment when you look at yourself in the mirror and you realize that there's something off about you, and it doesn't make you a bad person, but you've got to figure out a way to keep it at bay and keep it dormant. And the only way I know to do that is you have to face it. Because the only way you're going to be able to overcome those parts of your psyche is you have to be aware that they're real, And there's a lot of psychology going on in that song. But it's definitely the moment in the story where the individual has to finally accept, like, I'm always going to have to deal with these things. You know, I'm always going to have these monsters, but I got to figure out a way to not let them get the best of me.
That'll be at #1 on rock radio any day now, climbing the charts, of course. So I want to go back to mental health for a second. Shinedown recently discussed the importance of mental health awareness and the impact it has on both touring bands and spaceflight, because you guys were talking to NASA, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So you all talk about it, you sing about it. I want to throw this tidbit at you and just get your thoughts. A recent study found that 73% of independent musicians reported suffering from mental illness symptoms. That number seems astronomically high to me, 73% of independent musicians. I know you've dealt with musicians of all levels, but what do you attribute that to?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm surprised it's not higher, actually. Here's the thing. If you're categorizing it just for musicians and, let's say, songwriters and people that create, you know, creative minds, let me give you it's kind of a joke, but it makes a lot of sense. How do you ruin, I'm going to ask you this, Tony. This is me asking you this question real quick.
Oh, Lord.
How do you ruin a great idea?
How do you ruin a great idea? You don't follow it through. You don't believe in it. You sabotage it. You never have it.
Close. You know, I saw this the other day. It was actually brought to me by Eric, and it's pretty ingenious. How do you ruin a great idea? You take it to a meeting.
Truth.
And what I mean by that is, when you are an artist, and I've got to talk about what I know, and that's music, and it's really songwriting, because I'm a songwriter first. I know I'm a singer, but I'm a songwriter first. Mm-hmm. When you have an idea and you want to see it through, the worst way at some points, not all the time, to ruin that great idea is take it to a meeting.
That's funny.
Because all of a sudden people will take your idea and they will morph it into something that was never your intention. And as a songwriter, you're under a microscope, and people are going to judge you, and people are going to talk about your art, and people are going to, like, when you release a record, especially now with social media, everybody has a platform and everybody has a opinion. And the unique thing about this is, from the mental standpoint, the best way I can describe this, and why I think musicians, and why that percentage with mental health and or depression, or just, you know, issues involving anxiety, or things where people are mentally a little off, it's because they get bombarded with opinions. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. You chose to write something and to present it to the world. Of course you're going to be judged on it. Of course people are going to have an opinion on it. Of course people are going to love it, and some people are going to hate it. And the thing about that is, that's 1,000% okay. The problem comes into when people, they look at a review and they see all these wonderful glowing reviews about their art or about their song or what have you. And there could be hundreds and hundreds of people that praise it, and hundreds of thousands that praise it, maybe even millions. But there'll be one person that says something negative, and that's the only thing you see. As a musician, I see that a lot, where musicians are like, 10 million people love this, but this one dude says it's absolute crap and I should quit. And that's all they focus on, is that one person, because everybody else is saying it's good, and this one person is saying, yeah, it's not great. So from a standpoint, what happens there is, it completely just can destroy you, because you're just like, well, why do you not like it? Because you want to make that person like it, because everybody else likes it. Why don't you like it? It drives people nuts. It used to drive me nuts. And the thing about that is you have to pick your battles. it's a very fine line when you are a musician and you're bringing awareness to something that honestly has been going on since the beginning of time. It was the same thing a couple of years ago when we released a song called Bully. And everybody's like, this is an epidemic, and there's this needs to be taken care of. I'm like, it's not an epidemic. It's been going on since the dawn of man and woman. The reality of that song was everybody else was like, go talk to somebody, let them know. It was like they turned it into like a tattletale, when that's the opposite of what it needed to be at that point in time. For Bully, we were saying, yeah, if somebody comes into your mental or personal space and they are physically or mentally attacking you, attack them back. You know what I mean? Don't turn the other cheek. And with the influx of why it's called mental awareness and why May is Mental Awareness Month is because of that black brick in your pocket. Because here's the thing. Social media and the internet can be a massively useful tool. It really can. It can also be devastating. On top of that, the youth, not just in North America, but globally, last year the suicide rate for 15 to 24-year-old females, not even just males, but females, was staggeringly high. The reason is because there's, if you are living your life on your phone, then you're not living. Here's the other thing that people forget about social media. You have total control of it. You do.
Totally.
Like, you don't have to look at things if you don't want to. You don't have to keep reading someone's negative opinions about you, because I guarantee you, for every one negative thing that somebody says on your platform, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever, for every one person that's not into what you're doing, I guarantee you there's 100 more that are into what you're doing. Okay? And it takes time. You know what I mean? You have to be able to understand that you're not always going to be able to change people's perception of you. If everybody loved you, if everybody adored you, if you were perfect, then life wouldn't be any fun.
Are
you know
you
what
sure?
I mean? Like, you got to have challenges. You got to have, the wherewithal to understand that mentally and physically, we don't want people to be desensitized. We want people to live and live their life. But to answer your question, I think that social media has a lot to do with that depression in musicians and songwriting and what have you, because we're under a microscope.
Right.
But it's also our responsibility as people and as individuals to, see the forest, from the trees, if you know what I mean. And so with that, it's something that I had to do on a personal, just from my own sanity, if you will, because I'm on the road 280 days out of the year by choice.
It's crazy.
And because I love to tour, I love being around people, and I love what I do for a living. But I have 2 alarms in the morning. The first alarm wakes me up, and then the second alarm is an hour after I get up. So when I wake up, I hit the one alarm, which triggers the second one. For the first hour that I'm awake, I don't look at social media. I don't even look at my phone. I have my little, I wake up. I don't really talk for the first hour I'm up. I get my coffee like I always do, and I sit down, and that first hour of the day for me, that's mine. Mm-hmm. It's just for me. It's my moment of meditation, if you will. Because guess what? The internet ain't going nowhere. Neither is social platforms. It'll be there.
Totally.
That 1 hour for me, though, from a psychological standpoint, it really helps me to center myself and get ready for the day. Because the social aspect of things, it's going to be there. You know what I mean? So you just got to figure out what works for you.
Agreed. All right, I'm going to do one last question. I don't want to take up any more of your time. You're so good. You give such amazing answers. The last question, is kind of silly, but I want to do this ongoing segment with different musicians who have transformed their bodies and are super into working out, because I just love that crap. So can you give us your top 3 tips for getting in shape?
The top 3 tips for getting in shape. The first one, and probably the most important one, is you've got to decide to do it for yourself. That's the number one. Like for me too, that was like also a big part of like, I looked in the mirror one day and I was like, yep, that's it. I'm done. I'm over this. I don't like the way I look and I'm going to do something about it. So you literally have to make the decision because you're ready to do it. Because if you're not fully committed to it and ready to do it, you're going to get about halfway through and you're going to stop. So first thing, commit, commit for yourself. The second is, do not think the very first day that you begin to work out that you are going to be able to run a triathlon. You're going to be able to go out and do a Spartan race. You know what I mean? Because it's not going to happen. You got to understand that slow and steady, the turtle wins the race. So, just understand that the first thing is to commit. The second thing is to understand one exercise at a time. That's how I look at it. And the third one would be, and this is something that really had to help me out in regards to the nutrition side of things. One of the trainers in my life that really, really helped guide me with my nutrition and how to eat responsibly, but also to not like starve myself or, not eat some things that you always want to have a cheat day per se. I don't even like calling it a cheat day. It's just kind of like at a certain point, like if you want a cheeseburger, go eat a cheeseburger. But the third thing is the nutrition. You have to understand that if you feed your body life, it's going to give you life. If you feed your body death, it's going to be death. And I know it's a little dramatic.
Very.
People are like, well, you just talked about eating a cheeseburger. And
I know.
like,
exactly.
well, yeah. But I'm talking about eating a cheeseburger every once in a while. I'm not, you don't need to eat a cheeseburger 6 days a week. You know what I mean? Yeah. And for me, any kind of vegetable, any kind of fruit, any kind of, lean protein that, is either caught out of the, right out of the water or, and I know that some people that are vegans, they have a very sensitive, and they have a sensitivity to animals. I love animals. I'm a huge supporter of animal rights. And, I struggle with it at times, because I do still eat meat. But the reality is, from, those 3 steps, commit is first. The second is understand that you got to do one exercise at a time and you will get stronger. Each and every day you start adding reps. Each and every day you run a little bit further. Each and every day you push a little bit more weight. You know what I mean? And before you know it, you'll start getting strong. And then the third thing is really your diet, 1,000%. Because like I was saying about one of the trainers that helped me out in the beginning, like in the first year when I lost 70 pounds, my boy Rich, he said, look, we can work out for 2 hours a day. I can work you out till you're blue in the face. But if your diet sucks, everything that we do in here is for nothing, because 90% of your success with your aesthetic and your physicality, 90% of that success is going to be your diet. And, of course, working out and being active is a huge part of it, but you got to learn how to eat right.
Right. Abs are made in the kitchen, as the saying goes.
1,000%.
I believe it. All right. So many thanks to Brent Smith, frontman for Shinedown. Attention, Attention, the Band 6 studio album has been out for your listening pleasure. They stay on the road, as he mentioned, 280 days a year. You could get all of those dates at loudwire.com. All I ask is that you include a blooper reel for every single promo video you cut moving forward, because head to mouth,
you got it.
Whatever the hell you were saying, I'm going to cut. Well, you know what you said. Cracking up.
It's actually brain to tongue.
Brain to tongue. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Brent Smith. Always a huge pleasure.
You are absolutely outstanding, Tony. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you as well, my dear. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. Thank you so much for the support from me and from myself and behalf of, the band and also our crew and everybody involved in Indigoot and McGathy Promotions and Atlantic Records. So thank you to Loudwire and thank you to you, Tony. You're the best.